There is a particular kind of man who moves through the world differently. He does not announce his arrival. He does not compete for attention. He does not explain his decisions or defend his choices. Yet somehow rooms reorganize themselves around him, conversations pause when he speaks. Opportunities appear without effort. Respect is given without being requested. This is not luck. This is not charisma. This is structure. And if you are watching this, you have already sensed something most people will never understand. The game of validation is rigged, competition is a trap, and the loudest person in the room is rarely the most powerful. What you are about to learn is how high-value people operate beneath the surface of social theater, how they accumulate power while others exhaust themselves performing, how they control outcomes without ever appearing to compete. This is not about becoming cold or inhuman. This is about becoming strategically untouchable in a world that rewards perception more than truth. Machiavelli understood something the modern world has forgotten. Power is not seized through force or volume. It is assumed through positioning. The prince who survives is not the one who fights every battle. It is the one who makes battle unnecessary. High-value people have internalized this completely. They do not fight for status. They architect conditions where status becomes inevitable. Most men spend their entire lives trapped in a cycle they never question. They wake up seeking approval. They measure their worth through external feedback. They compete endlessly for scraps of recognition, never realizing that the act of competing is what keeps them powerless. Every time you enter a competition, you validate the rules someone else created. Every time you seek approval, you hand authority to the person whose opinion you are chasing. Every time you explain yourself, you step down into a frame beneath your own. High-value people reject this framework entirely, not through rebellion or loud rejection, but through quiet refusal. They simply stop playing games designed to keep them reactive. They stop measuring themselves against others because comparison is a prison that keeps you externally referenced. The moment your worth depends on how you stack up against someone else, you have surrendered control of your psychology. Think about the people you truly respect, not admire from a distance, but genuinely respect. Chances are they do not spend time telling you how important they are. They do not compete for your attention. They do not perform or justify their existence. They simply are. Their presence carries weight because it is not desperate. Their words matter because they are rare. Their approval feels valuable because it is not given freely. This is not accidental. This is design. And you can build the same structure in your own life, but only if you are willing to abandon the addiction to external validation. That addiction is what keeps most people weak. It creates a dependency loop where your emotional state is controlled by the reactions of others. You post something and wait for likes. You speak and scan faces for approval. You make decisions and immediately seek reassurance that you chose correctly. Every single one of these behaviors is a leak in your power. Every moment spent seeking validation is a moment you are not building actual leverage. High-value people understand this instinctively. They have trained themselves to find certainty internally, which makes them immune to the social games that control everyone else. Let me be clear about what this is not. This is not about becoming arrogant or dismissive. This is not about pretending you are superior while secretly craving approval. That is just insecurity with a mask. True high-value psychology is about genuine indifference to outcomes you cannot control. It is about building your sense of worth from competence, consistency, and internal standards rather than external feedback. When you stop needing validation, something shifts in how people perceive you. They sense that you are not seeking anything from them. That absence of need creates curiosity. Curiosity creates attention. Attention without pursuit creates value. This is the paradox that weak minds cannot grasp. The less you chase respect, the more it follows you. The less you compete for status, the more naturally it is assigned to you. Machiavelli wrote that it is better to be feared than loved, but what he truly meant was that it is better to be respected than needed. Need creates dependency. Dependency creates weakness. Respect creates distance. Distance creates safety. High-value people maintain this distance not through coldness, but through boundaries that are never explained, only enforced. You see this in how they handle conflict. The average person, when challenged, immediately defends themselves. They explain, justify, provide evidence, argue their case. They do this because they believe that clarity will restore their standing. But every explanation is an admission that the other person's opinion matters. Every defense validates the attack. High-value people do something different. They pause. They let the accusation hang in the air. They allow the silence to create discomfort in the accuser rather than in themselves. This pause is not passive. It is active dominance. It communicates that the challenge is not significant enough to warrant a response. It forces the other person to sit with their aggression, and aggression without reaction loses energy quickly. Over time, people stop challenging what does not react. They redirect their tests elsewhere because dominance that does not engage feels immovable. This same principle applies to competition. When someone tries to compete with you, your instinct might be to meet them at their level, to match their energy, to prove you are better, to win the contest. But the moment you engage, you have already lost something more valuable than the competition itself. You have lost frame. Frame is everything. Frame is the invisible structure that determines whose reality governs the interaction. When you compete, you accept that there is something to compete for. You validate the arena. You agree that the outcome matters. High-value people refuse this agreement. They do not ignore competition out of fear or avoidance. They ignore it because they are operating in a different category entirely. They are not trying to be the best in the room. They are trying to make the room irrelevant. This is why they invest time differently. While others are busy signaling competence, high-value people are building actual competence. While others are networking loudly, they are forming strategic alliances quietly. While others are chasing titles, they are accumulating leverage. Leverage is the only currency that matters in power dynamics. Leverage is what you have when people need you more than you need them. Building leverage requires patience, and patience is the rarest quality in a world addicted to instant feedback. Everyone wants results now. They want recognition today. They want proof that their effort matters before they've even finished the work. This impatience makes them visible, predictable, and easy to manipulate. High-value people embrace delayed gratification because they understand that real power compounds over time. Think of a tree. A tree does not compete with other trees for attention. It does not explain why it deserves sunlight. It simply grows, roots deepen, branches extend, strength accumulates. When a storm comes, the tree that grew slowly and deeply remains standing. The one that shot up quickly to impress falls first. High-value people are the deep-rooted tree. They grow in silence. They strengthen in obscurity. They let time do the work that performance never can. This approach also protects you from a trap that destroys most ambitious people: premature exposure. When you announce your plans too early, you invite interference. People who feel threatened will work to block you. People who are envious will subtly sabotage. People who are insecure will demand explanations that drain your energy. All of this happens because you revealed intention before you had the power to make it irreversible. Machiavelli warned that fortune favors the bold, but boldness without preparation is recklessness. High-value people prepare in private and reveal in public only when the outcome is already secured. They do not narrate their journey. They do not document their struggle. They let results arrive before explanations. This creates a psychological effect that is impossible to replicate through self-promotion. When people see the outcome without witnessing the process, the gap feels magical. They cannot reverse engineer your success, which means they cannot replicate it. This keeps you rare. Rarity is the foundation of value. Economics teaches this. Psychology confirms it. What is abundant is cheap. What is scarce is precious. High-value people make themselves scarce not by hiding, but by being selective. Selective with time, selective with energy, selective with attention, selective with presence. Every interaction is intentional. Every conversation has purpose. Every relationship is evaluated for alignment. This selectivity is often misunderstood as elitism or coldness, but it is actually self-respect in action. You cannot be high value if you are available to everyone. You cannot be powerful if your time is not protected. You cannot be respected if your presence is guaranteed. Availability without boundaries is not generosity. It is self-destruction. When you become selective, people notice. Some will be offended. Let them be. Their offense reveals that they valued access more than they valued you. Others will adjust their behavior. They will become more respectful, more considerate, more intentional when they do reach out. This adjustment happens without you demanding it. Your boundaries trained them. This is influence without instruction. High-value people also understand the power of strategic withdrawal. Withdrawal is one of the most aggressive moves in power psychology, yet it appears passive. When you withdraw attention, effort, or availability, you disrupt expectations. Disruption forces recalibration. Most people are conditioned to believe that presence equals importance, that constant engagement equals value. This belief is a weakness you can exploit by simply stepping back. When you withdraw, you create a vacuum. Vacuums pull. People who took your presence for granted suddenly notice your absence. They wonder what changed. They question what they did wrong. They become more invested in regaining access than they ever were in maintaining it. This is human psychology at its most predictable. We value what we think we might lose. But withdrawal only works if it is genuine. If you step back while still seeking validation, people will sense the manipulation. If you withdraw as a tactic to get attention, it becomes a game that weakens you. True withdrawal is indifference to the outcome. You step back because the interaction no longer serves you, not because you want a reaction. This authenticity is what makes the move powerful. Machiavelli also understood that perception shapes reality more than truth does. This is uncomfortable for people who believe the world is fair, but it is liberating for those who accept the world as it is. High-value people manage perception carefully, not through lies or deception, but through control of information. They reveal only what strengthens their position. They conceal what invites interference. They allow misunderstandings that serve them and correct only those that threaten leverage. This does not mean being dishonest. It means being strategic with transparency. Transparency is worshipped in modern culture as if it is always virtuous, but transparency without power is vulnerability. When you reveal everything, you give others a map to your weaknesses. When you reveal selectively, you control the narrative. Control of narrative is control of perception. Control of perception is control of reality in social systems. High-value people also master the art of emotional neutrality. Emotional neutrality does not mean you feel nothing. It means your emotions do not control your behavior. When someone disrespects you, you feel the anger, but you do not react from it. When someone praises you, you feel the pleasure, but you do not depend on it. This creates a psychological stability that others find magnetic. People are drawn to stability because most live in chaos. Their emotions swing wildly based on external events. Their confidence depends on recent feedback. Their decisions are reactive rather than strategic. When they encounter someone who remains calm regardless of circumstances, they instinctively defer. Calmness suggests depth. Depth suggests power. Power attracts alignment. This is why high-value people speak less. Every word you do not say preserves mystery. Every reaction you deny protects your position. Silence is not emptiness. Silence is pressure. When you do not fill space with noise, others feel compelled to fill it. They reveal more than they intended. They expose intentions, insecurities, strategies. All of this becomes intelligence you can use. Machiavelli advised that a wise prince learns more by listening than by speaking. High-value people embody this. They ask questions and let others talk. They observe patterns rather than reacting to individual events. They collect information while giving little. This asymmetry creates a strategic advantage that compounds over time. There is also the matter of how high-value people handle success. Most people, when they achieve something, immediately broadcast it. They need witnesses. They need validation. They need confirmation that the success is real. This need dilutes the success itself because it makes the achievement about external recognition rather than internal satisfaction. High-value people experience success differently. They acknowledge it internally, extract the lesson, and continue building. This does not mean they never celebrate or share. It means they do not require celebration to feel successful. The success is validated by the outcome, not by the applause. This internal validation makes them immune to envy because they are not performing success for an audience. They are simply living it. When you stop performing, something remarkable happens. People start studying you instead. They wonder how you remain so calm. They question what you know that they do not. They try to decode your strategy. This attention is far more valuable than the attention you get from performing because it is rooted in respect rather than entertainment. Respect endures. Entertainment fades. High-value people also understand that power is not about controlling others. It is about controlling yourself in the presence of others. When you can remain centered while everyone around you is reactive, you become the gravitational center of the room. Not because you demanded it, but because stability attracts orbit. People naturally defer to the calmest person in a crisis. They follow the most certain voice in uncertainty. They trust the most consistent presence over time. This consistency is built through discipline that nobody sees. High-value people do not rely on motivation. They rely on systems. They build routines that reinforce their standards when nobody is watching. They make decisions based on principles rather than feelings. They choose long-term positioning over short-term comfort. This discipline is invisible to outsiders, which is why their success appears effortless. Effort that shows is effort that is struggling. Mastery looks easy because the hard work happened in private. High-value people front-load their suffering. They do the difficult internal work early so that external execution appears smooth. They build competence in silence so that performance in public feels natural. This is the opposite of how most people operate. Most people perform effort publicly and wonder why results do not follow. There is also a psychological shift that happens when you stop seeking validation. You stop fearing judgment. When you no longer need approval, criticism loses its power. Someone can dislike you, misunderstand you, or dismiss you entirely, and it does not alter your trajectory. This immunity to judgment is what makes high-value people dangerous in the best sense. They cannot be controlled through social pressure. They cannot be manipulated through shame. They cannot be deterred through disapproval. This does not mean they are reckless or arrogant. It means they have separated their self-worth from external opinion. They know their value is built on competence, integrity, and results, not on consensus. This separation is liberation. It frees you to make decisions based on strategy rather than fear. It allows you to take risks others avoid because they are too worried about looking foolish. Machiavelli wrote that the prince must learn to be feared and loved, but if he cannot be both, fear is safer. In modern terms, this translates to respect and likability. If you cannot have both, respect is more valuable. Likability is fragile. It depends on you maintaining a persona that pleases others. Respect is durable. It depends on you maintaining standards that others recognize as solid. High-value people prioritize respect over likability. They are not rude or dismissive, but they do not soften their boundaries to make others comfortable. They do not apologize for standards that protect their energy. They do not explain decisions that serve their long-term vision. This firmness is often mistaken for arrogance by people who are used to others bending, but it is actually clarity. Clarity about who you are and what you will tolerate creates a force field around you. People sense they cannot manipulate you easily, so they either respect the boundary or leave. Both outcomes serve you. Those who respect boundaries add value. Those who leave are going to drain you eventually. High-value people accelerate this filtration process by refusing to negotiate their standards. Another element of high-value psychology is comfort with being misunderstood. Most people panic when they are misunderstood. They rush to clarify, to correct, to ensure everyone sees them accurately. High-value people allow misunderstanding to exist. They understand that not everyone deserves clarity. Clarity is a gift you give selectively to those who have earned it through respect and alignment. When you allow misunderstanding, you also allow people to reveal themselves. How someone interprets your silence tells you about their psychology. How they react to your boundaries tells you about their respect. How they handle your success tells you about their security. All of this is valuable information that you only get when you stop managing everyone's perception of you. This ties into the concept of outcome independence. Outcome independence means you are not attached to a specific result in any interaction. You state your position, make your offer, or set your boundary, and then you are genuinely indifferent to whether it is accepted. This indifference is not apathy. It is confidence that you have other options. Options create leverage. Leverage creates power. When you need a specific outcome, you negotiate from weakness. When you are indifferent to the outcome, you negotiate from strength. High-value people cultivate this indifference by building redundancy in every area of life. Multiple income streams, multiple social circles, multiple sources of fulfillment. This redundancy means no single loss is catastrophic. No single rejection is devastating. No single conflict is existential. This abundance mindset is the opposite of scarcity thinking. Scarcity makes you cling. Clinging makes you weak. Abundance makes you generous, but selective. You can afford to walk away from what does not serve you because you trust that alignment will come. This trust is not naive optimism. It is strategic confidence built on preparation. High-value people also recognize that most conflict is not worth engaging. Weak people fight every battle because they think every challenge is a threat to their status. Strong people choose battles strategically. They ask whether winning this argument advances their position or simply drains energy. Most of the time, silence or withdrawal is more powerful than engagement. When you refuse to argue, you deny the other person the satisfaction of your reaction. You also avoid the trap of being pulled into their frame. Every argument you enter is a frame you accept. High-value people stay in their own frame by refusing to defend positions that do not require defense. They let accusations die from lack of oxygen. They let criticism exhaust itself against their indifference. This is not avoidance. This is conservation of energy. Energy is finite. Attention is finite. Every moment spent defending yourself is a moment not spent building. High-value people are ruthless about protecting their energy because they understand that energy is the resource that determines everything else. When your energy is high, your decisions are sharp, your presence is magnetic, your execution is flawless. There is also the matter of how high-value people build relationships. They do not collect contacts. They build alliances. An alliance is different from a friendship or a network connection. An alliance is a relationship built on mutual benefit and strategic alignment. Both parties bring value. Both parties respect boundaries. Both parties operate from abundance rather than need. High-value people are slow to trust but loyal once trust is earned. They do not give access easily because access is valuable. They observe behavior over time. They test consistency. They watch how people handle power, stress, and conflict. Only after someone has demonstrated alignment do they invest deeply. This selectivity means their inner circle is small but solid. Machiavelli understood that a prince is known by the company he keeps. If you surround yourself with weak, reactive, or disloyal people, you will be perceived as weak regardless of your personal strength. High-value people curate their environment ruthlessly. They remove or distance themselves from people who drain energy, create drama, or operate from scarcity. They invest in relationships that sharpen them, challenge them, and align with their vision. This curation extends to information consumption. High-value people are careful about what they allow into their minds. They do not consume news that makes them reactive. They do not engage with content that triggers insecurity. They do not spend time in environments that normalize mediocrity. They build information diets that reinforce their standards and expand their strategic thinking. This discipline creates a compounding effect. The better your inputs, the better your thoughts. The better your thoughts, the better your decisions. The better your decisions, the better your outcomes. Over time, this gap between you and the average person widens until you are operating in a completely different reality. High-value people also embrace discomfort as a tool. They do not avoid difficult conversations. They initiate them. They do not wait for perfect conditions. They act in uncertainty. They do not need external validation to move forward. They trust their preparation and adjust as they go. This bias toward action, combined with strategic patience, creates momentum that others cannot match. They also understand that reputation is built slowly and destroyed quickly, so they are careful with their word. When they commit, they follow through. When they set a boundary, they enforce it. When they make a promise, they deliver. This consistency builds trust, and trust is the foundation of influence. People follow those they trust more readily than those they fear or admire. But high-value people also know that trust must be mutual. They do not give loyalty to those who have not demonstrated it. They do not invest in people who take without reciprocating. They are generous but not foolish. They help, but not at their own expense. This balance between generosity and self-protection is what allows them to build powerful networks without becoming depleted. There is one final principle that separates high-value people from everyone else. They accept that the world is not fair, and they do not waste energy wishing it were different. They do not complain about injustice. They do not expect meritocracy. They understand that perception, timing, and leverage often matter more than competence alone. This acceptance is not cynicism. It is realism. Realism allows you to navigate the world as it is, rather than as you wish it to be. When you accept that people are driven by self-interest, you stop being surprised by betrayal. When you accept that status is often performance, you stop resenting those who play the game well. When you accept that power follows perception, you start managing perception strategically. This does not mean you abandon ethics or integrity. It means you recognize that integrity alone is not enough. You must also be strategic. You must also be aware. You must also be willing to operate in the gray areas where most people are too afraid or too naive to go. High-value people live in this space. They maintain their principles while recognizing that the world does not reward principle alone. Machiavelli's greatest insight was that the prince must learn to be both the lion and the fox. The lion represents strength and directness. The fox represents cunning and adaptability. Most people are one or the other. High-value people are both. They know when to be direct and when to be subtle, when to speak and when to stay silent, when to engage and when to withdraw. This duality makes them unpredictable, and unpredictability is a form of power. When people cannot anticipate your moves, they cannot prepare counter-moves. When they cannot read your emotions, they cannot manipulate you. When they cannot predict your reactions, they treat you with more caution. This caution creates space, and space creates control. If you have made it this far, you already understand something most people never will. Validation is a trap. Competition is a distraction. Performance is exhausting. The real path to power is internal alignment, strategic patience, and ruthless selectivity. High-value people do not chase respect. They build systems that make respect inevitable. They do not compete for status. They position themselves where status is assigned automatically. They do not seek validation. They become so certain internally that external opinion becomes irrelevant. This is not easy. It requires killing parts of yourself that crave approval. It requires sitting with discomfort while others celebrate shallow wins. It requires trusting a process that shows no immediate results. But if you can endure this, if you can build in silence while others perform in noise, you will reach a point where the world reorganizes itself around you without effort. That is the ultimate goal. Not to dominate through force, but to become the gravitational center that others orbit naturally. Not to compete, but to transcend competition entirely. Not to seek validation, but to become so solid that validation seeks you.